Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be playing with the Gina K Designs absolutely delightful stamp set. I love all of these fall leaves across here. So we're going to be doing a watercolored card with this. I'm going to grab in my mini Misty, and I'm also going to grab my sticky mat. I like to use this sticky mat when I need my cardstock to be in place but not dipped into the corner of my Misty. So this is perfect if you want to line things up that actually extend further than your card panel, and you'll see what I mean when I lay down my stamps. Now today we're going to be doing some no line watercoloring, and I kind of want those leaves to run off of the paper. So using that sticky mat or that sticky grid is going to allow me the opportunity to run those leaves right off the corner because my paper is not stuck into the side part that we normally would place our card panel in order to get our paper to be straight. I'm just going to fiddle around with what leaves I want. I want most of the area to be covered, but I do know I can place some stamps in between in order to fill in those gaps. Now, since I have everything lined up, I can close my Misty lid, lift that open, and I'm going to be using the Gina K Amalgam ink in the color of Glow. This is the first time I'm using it. I saw a friend of mine when we were away for a girls trip use it, and I thought it was beautiful. So I decided to go ahead and grab it off of the Gina K website and try it out today on my card. I'm going to use my tool here to help me press that into the cardstock. Now this is watercolor cardstock, so it's going to have some texture. So I'm going to go ahead and double stamp this just so I know that the ink gets into all of the grooves of my paper. Now remember I said I have some spots that are open and I want to fill those in. So I went ahead and grabbed the Always Delightful stamp set. This is also from Gina K. And I'm going to grab out some of the leaves or the foliage that is a little bit taller and skinnier to fit into those narrow areas. So you can see that this has a longer stem on it. So my little flower piece or my little foliage is going to stand up a little bit taller. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of the leaves and see if that fits in. It kind of covers up the other leaves, so I don't think I want to use that one. But before I add in those filler pieces, I do want to flip my panel over and go ahead and stamp out my leaves again. Now I could rearrange them all over again, but since they're already there and I did not remove them from my Misty, I can easily place them where I want. Now I don't need to be perfect in making sure that these line up the same way the ones at the top lined up, because I want a little bit of variation in this card and not for the top and the bottom to really be matchy. I do want the leaves on there, but they don't have to be perfectly placed. So as you can see, I'm moving around that panel a little bit, seeing where I want those next group of leaves, and then I can go ahead and restamp this. Now this is a great way to make a beautiful background for your card, also allowing you space for a sentiment, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing my top and my bottom of my card panel, leaving that middle piece for me to have my sentiment. Again, I double stamped this in the Amalgam Glow ink, and look how gorgeous this ink is. I absolutely love the color of this. It's almost like a sepia color. And again, I left that middle part that I can add in a sentiment. So now I need to just fill back in those pieces. Remember I said I needed some filler pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. Excuse me if you hear a little bit of noise in the background. We have our landscaper guys here today, and of course they would come in the middle of me doing my voiceover. That's how it always happens. All right, so I think I'm going to go with one of the taller pieces in this set. So instead of using that little leaf, I'm going to go in and pick up one of the more taller ones. But in the meantime, I want to stamp this one first. This is the first leaf that I want to fill in that space. Now, again, if this had overlapped, still would have been okay with it, but I just wanted to make sure that I had a skinnier piece where I didn't have to kind of like worry about making sure I masked off a leaf. That's always an option, to have to mask off something. But in my case, I didn't want to have to worry about that. So instead, I'm just grabbing 2 of the stamps that I know are skinny enough to fit in between. So once I have my second one down, I can go back to my ink and go ahead and press that down. Now, these stamps are part of Gina K's July 2020 release, and I'm so happy to be doing a blog hop with them. So I'm super, super inspired to use this stamp set. And as we are still in the summer part, I still feel like I can get away with a fall card. So you saw me kind of pointing out where those pieces were kind of like hanging down. But I think for this bottom piece, I just want to use the leaves to fill in. Again, I'm not trying to be matchy-matchy on this card. I just want to make sure those opening areas are filled in. So instead of using the longer ones at what would be the top of my card, I'm just going to grab some of those smaller leaves to fill in those areas, because when I flipped my card over, I did not want the greenery of this card to be hanging down. So that's why I just chose to place the leaves there, just the tips of the leaves, so my card didn't look kind of like off balanced. So once I have that done, and I love how everything is done, then I can go ahead and start watercoloring. I am using my waffle flower mixed media mat today, and I went ahead and grabbed some tape and taped this down. I am going to be using my Daniel Smith watercolors today, and I already have a bunch of paint already on my palette. I'm just going to use that paint. I am also using one of the newer paintbrushes from Altenew, and like I said, I'm just going to spritz some water onto what's already on that palette. I'm going to have plenty of color to color this image with what's left on my palette. So remember, if you have inks that you've already used or pre-mixed for a previous project, you can go ahead and reuse those. As long as there's enough on there, I would say go ahead and use it. Now, I did speed this up because it did take me, I don't know, about 20 minutes or so to paint this, but I just want to kind of fill you in what I did. So at first I went in with a very, very light wash of color and lots of water. And then I came back in and strengthened it up a little bit. So again, I'm coming in first with a lot of water and a little bit of color just to get down that base. And then I would go back in and fill some of it in with more of a color concentrate. Now, what's so beautiful about this ink, it really holds the shape and it doesn't like bleed out. So again, lots of water at first, and then I can bring in some of the darker color. Now, this is super easy to color because most of these are straight lines, so you can't really mess it up, I guess. But using a finer paintbrush will also help you be successful in this. I believe this one here is a number 2, if I remember. I'll be sure to link all the product below that I used. And using that thinner paintbrush allows me to get those sharper lines. And it also allows me to monitor how much water to paint I have. So as I finish this up, you can see how totally easy this was to accomplish. Now, I did go ahead and paint the flip side of this image the same exact way. I put down that color first, and then I went back up and deepened it up with more of a concentrate of paint. Now, once I have that done, I love how this looks, but I want to fill in and add some blue to this card. So I just took the color that, again, was already on my palette. This is like a navy blue shade. And I'm just making some random dots. Now, these dots do not need to be perfect. If you wanted them to be perfect, I guess you could grab a stamp and do this. But I like that I can have my own creative license when placing these dots. I don't have to be perfect. I can be a little bit more whimsical because the design of the stamp set also allows me to do that. So once I have them done, I love how the pop of blue works against this background. I do want to place in a sentiment. So I'm going to grab the Blessed sentiment out of one of the stamp sets and place that right in the middle of my card panel. Now I know I'm going to have plenty of room to have that sentiment. But before I do that, I do want to add a little bit of splatter to this. So I went ahead and I spritzed on some water to some gold shimmer paint. And I'm just going to flick some of this onto the panel. So I can go ahead and mix that up, and look how gorgeous that looks. Oh my God, I love watching metallic paints. I think it's so gorgeous. So I'm going to add a little bit of that to my acrylic block. I'm going to move my sentiment out of the way. And then I'm also going to remove this from my Misty because I really don't want to get that ink, the watercolor all over my Misty. So again, I'm just going to grab that color off of my acrylic block and kind of just flick in some of that color. That's going to help me to take away a lot of the bold white starkness of this paper and also give me a little bit of texture to this panel. So once I have the amount that I want, look at that shimmer. You really can't see it, but in real life, it is gorgeous. Once I have that done, I can go ahead and pop that back into my panel. Now, once this is in my Misty and I go back to stamp that sentiment, I am going to also stamp that sentiment in that glow ink. And I'm going to show you why. I do not know how to letter. I have seen people letter beautiful things like Christina Warner. I wish I could have her. The way she makes it look so easy to letter something. I do not have that skill. And I'm okay with that. So I kind of do a little bit of a cheat. I'm going to use my stamp to make it kind of look like I lettered. So stamping this in this glow is going to give me two things. I can stamp it very lightly in this color. And it's also going to allow me to pull in that blue ink that I just used on those little dots that I made. I can pull that color in using a paintbrush. Now again, I could have just stamped this in blue ink, but I don't think I have a blue ink that is this color. So this also allows me to, quote, practice my lettering by using the stamp itself. Also using the glow, it allows me to keep some of that bronzy kind of color with the card. So using the glow actually puts, quote, a glow behind the sentiment. So I can easily use a fine paintbrush to go right over that stamped ink. And I'll go right back in one more time to kind of deepen that up a little bit. But it really makes it look like I know how to letter when I don't. All right, once I have this complete, really it's just time for us to put together the card. Now, I'm going to keep this card really simple, but I did want to add a pop of glitter to this. So I'm going to grab me a gold piece of glitter paper, and that's just going to frame out this piece for me. Now, there is a lot going on with this card with the splatter and then the polka dots that I put in. So I didn't really want to add anything else on top of this card. So to give me some more of that shimmer that I got from the metallic watercolors, I'm just going to use some glitter cardstock. And I think this kind of frames it out. And I really love to use these shades of glitter cardstock, especially when it comes to my fall cards. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. Even though we're still in the midst of summer, fall is one of my favorite seasons. So I love making fall cards, especially ones that have leaves on them. I just think they're absolutely beautiful. So now you can see just that tad bit of glitter behind here really makes the card panel pop a little bit more. So I am going to grab my Misty really quick, and I'm just going to kind of press that down, since that watercolor paper does have some texture in it and the glitter paper has texture in it as well. Now I'll come back in and I'll use some more of my glue to adhere this to a card panel. Now, once I have this adhered to the card panel, our card is basically done, but I did make sure to trim this panel down a little bit so I would have a white border from my card base. And that is our no line coloring today with the new Gina K release. Thank you guys so much for watching. All products are listed below. And don't forget to subscribe and like if you like the video. I also have my social media channels here as well. Have a fantastic day, everybody, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.